Welcome to Standard Theory. In the previous segments, we introduced some main ideas about the standard theory of psychology and discussed the Standard Behavioral Index, including the R scale and Z scale. In this segment, we will review the Standard Behavioral Index as well as some of the dynamics associated with each thinking and communication type. To begin, we discussed vertical thinking on the Z0 scale, which is the general process of using impulse, subtraction, and compression in order to recognize and learn about an environment. These processes contribute completing one complete cycle of communication. According to the standard theory of psychology, there is a standard interval ratio amount of information in each of these cycles of communication. The completion of a single cycle of communication is measured by the Z0 scale. These completed cycles can be referred to as subtractions. After an individual experiences a sufficient number of these cycles of communication, there is a chance that they will gain the capacity for high energy or intelligent processing. In intelligent or high-energy processing, the subtractions from the Z0 scale are combined in order to create unique ideas. These ideas are comprised of a specific number of these interval ratio units of low-energy subtractions. These low-energy units are combined in order to form a high-energy unit, which is also processed at a proportional interval ratio unit. This high-energy unit can be referred to as a characteristic. The total capacity for the high-energy characteristics are measured on the R scale. The R scale concerns three main thinking types. These are known as horizontal, orthogonal, and absolute thinking. Within each of these are communication types. In horizontal thinking, there are three communication types. These are self, intimate, and social communication. Self-communication concerns one-to-self only from 1 to 3 characteristics. Intimate communication concerns one-on-one only from 4 to 6 characteristics. Social communication concerns one-to-many from 9 to 7 characteristics. In orthogonal thinking, there is one main communication type known as shared communication. Shared communication is an indirect form of communication and concerns characteristics 10 through 17. These characteristics are achieved through a composition and decomposition of the 1 through 9 characteristics of horizontal thinking. One side of communication is handled by the aversive party and the other side is handled by the subversive party. In absolute thinking, there is one communication type known as supersocial communication. This is a process of sorting information for the purpose of solving a simultaneous relationship between three identities. The range of supersocial communication deals with three main nodes of communication at 27, 54, and 117 characteristics of communication. By moving beyond this range, the physiological experiencing of gapping occurs. This gap reduces the amount of energy available for intelligence. The consequence of this process is the changeover to post-intelligent processing. This post-intelligent processing is measured by the Z scale or the scale of post-intelligent impulse. The processes related to intelligence are still partially accessible from the Z scale, hence the reference to post-intelligence. The constructive starting point of the Z scale is negative 180 characteristics and is also referred to as the turnaround. From the turnaround, one can move in a positive or a negative direction. In the negative direction, the Z scale measures metaphysical communication from negative 180 characteristics to negative 185 characteristics, impulsive communication from negative 185 to negative 191 characteristics, compulsive communication from negative 191 to negative 197 characteristics, and finally compulsive impulsive communication from negative 197 plus some amount of complexity. In the positive direction, from the turnaround, rolling communication concerns negative 180 characteristics all the way to negative 118 characteristics. Each of these steps are active in an incomplete way, with each step referred to as a pseudo-additive process. Each of the aforementioned processes are the pieces that work together to form the Standard Behavioral Index. Each of these can be considered in order to describe essentially every aspect of human behavior and psychology. Up to this point, we have only discussed the standardized versions of each of these scales. In order to answer questions about what happens when something goes wrong, we must view each of the communication types in an inverse or destructive way. Please join me in the next segment as we begin to look at the abnormal or non-standard manifestations of human behavior.